Now for the eighth wonder of the world, basically a Geek Show. And here are your hosts, Mike and Jack.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 62 of Basically a Geek Show. Starting off a bit differently, this first section we're going to be recording this just a bit later. I am Mike. Jack, unfortunately, won't be able to be with us for the first section of this episode, but we've got someone pitch-hitting, as it will. Please welcome Zach from Basically a Football Show and Basically a Sports Show.
Hi, nerds.
And, Zach, I'm bringing you on here. We're going to talk some Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball is super.
Super Hadoku? I don't know. I'm just stringing Japanese words together. Or me butchering Japanese words. Anyway, this came as kind of a surprise, I think. I don't think very many people were expecting it when this show was announced. It kind of seemed like the Dragon Ball series petered out with GT.
Yeah, the GT series back in '98, that was completely created by the animation company Toei, because there was no more manga, there was no more original material to go from, but Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball obviously made them barrels of money over the years, and of course they spread that not just in Japan but of course across the world, so they wanted more to sell to people. And GT had its ups, had its downs. They tried to take it back, like the first 64 episodes or so they tried to, or I guess 64 episodes was the total run. First 20 episodes, they tried to go back to the original Dragon Ball concept of going around the universe and stuff, and it felt out of place and it was weird. And
they reverted Goku to like a little kid too.
Right? Yeah. That was part of it. Was we're going to make Goku a kid again so we can be like Dragon Ball. And it's like, well, but we liked adult Goku. And then they introduced Super Saiyan 4, which there was a whole process of growing back a tail and then being a Super Saiyan, and then he was red, and it was a lot of stuff. And so after that, then there was a down period where it was just mostly Dragon Ball Z across the globe, not in Japan anymore. They were just, making more video games and dubbing the TV shows and sending those around. And it was, Dragon Ball had its time in the spotlight, and this was the end of the run, and all good things come to an end eventually.
Well, we also had that movie, Evolution. Let's not forget that.
I would like to forget that. Yeah, that was Fox's. Well, the thing is, Fox still has the distribution rights for Dragon Ball. So, they tried to make the movie to capitalize on those rights, and they royally screwed the pooch on every single aspect of that. The only thing that it had in common with Dragon Ball Z was character names.
Yeah.
That yes, there was a Goku, and there was a Piccolo, and there was a Master Roshi, but none of them came together like they were supposed to.
Not really. And then they put Goku in high school, I guess, because Twilight, and then... Yeah,
he was in high school. He was a white guy with a bunch of Japanese kids. It was weird.
Yeah. But I guess, just jumping in... Now, I've heard various... rumors about how this relates to GT. The biggest thing I've heard is that GT basically didn't happen. They're writing it off.
Yeah, because again, GT was made simply by the animation company, and so some people didn't always consider it as canon, as Dragon Ball canon, which you would take that based off the original works of Akira Toriyama, the guy who wrote Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z.
Who, by the way, stretched the thing. He already stretched Dragon Ball out to begin with. He wanted to end it after Frieza, and then he added Cell and Boo just kind of to keep it going.
And he wanted to end it after Cell too.
Yeah.
He wanted to end it every single time.
Yeah.
And then when they got to the Majin Buu saga, he's just like, well, I'm just gonna string this out to all hell. And he just kept. That's why the Buu saga is so kind of strange and long. Is that he kept wanting to he made a new form. Was like, this is gonna be it. And they're like, no, keep going. He was like, fine, and they just stretched it out, and eventually they got to the end. But because of all the video game success and that Dragon Ball was still as popular as it was around the world, the company that owned Dragon Ball, Toei, wanted to make a new movie because it was like a 20th anniversary of Dragon Ball Z, I think, and they were just really excited to try and do something new and not revive, just take an old story. Like they'd done this before they did a 10-year anniversary special, and it was basically redoing one of the original Dragon Ball movies, not the Dragon Ball Z movies.
Okay.
And that was fine. They used like the updated art style, and it was neat. But in between time between GT and now, there would always been these little animated shorts that would pop up from other animators, and they were always well received. The video games kept selling, at an immense rate in Japan and overseas.
And let's not forget Dragon Ball Abridged.
Yes, DB Abridged on YouTube, kept things alive kinda on YouTube, and I love that series.
No,
I love that so much.
In my opinion, Dragon Ball Abridged Frieza is canon Frieza because it's just fantastic.
It's really great. It's really fun. And so they made this movie called Battle of Gods, and it was completely new. But when in the process of it, they originally started with just. They were originally going to just make the movie, and they got Akira Toriyama's blessings. Like, yeah, sure, you can make a movie. And then, I guess halfway through the process, he came in and was like, "Oh, I don't like any of this." And so basically, Akira Toriyama rewrote Battle of Gods and designed some of the characters, including now who's been a very popular character now, a main part of the series, Beerus, the God of Destruction.
Yes.
So they made Battle of Gods, and it was a huge hit. It was a huge hit in Japan, and there was such a clamor for it over here in the States that for the first time they were able to dub it and get it over here in America within the same year. And Fox had a little issue because they still had the distribution rights. They wanted to put it in theaters. Funimation did, the American company. And so Fox, there was kind of a dispute, but they eventually got it over here, and it sold out shows. It ran for longer than they thought it was going to, and it was a huge success. So they're like, "Oh, this is great. Let's do another movie." So I think 2 years later, they made Revival of F, or in America it's called Resurrection F, or if you want to get Japanese about it, it's Fukatsu no F, which is basically it's the revival. The F in Revival of F is Frieza, and so it was kind of like, I don't know. Like, in Battle of Gods, they introduce a new form, which is Super Saiyan God. And it's like, what could be greater than Super Saiyan God? Well, they decide to bring back Frieza, and it's like, well, if Goku's a Super Saiyan God, he's going to pummel Frieza, right?
Yeah.
So that movie was kind of less in quality because they had to do some stretching. They said, well, Frieza got revived by the remaining people of his army, and he decided to train for, 2 months. And all of a sudden got to be just as strong as...
So he just basically went on a 2-week, montage period, and then...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was just because he said, well, I never trained in my life before because I was such a prodigy, and look what happens when I train, and he turns into Golden Frieza, and he gets to fight the blooper Saiyans, as we like to call them, the Super Saiyan God Super Saiyans.
I remember when just Super Saiyan was a big deal.
Yes.
I remember when Goku first went Super Saiyan, watching that and being like, that's it. He owns the universe now.
Well, and that goes back to Akira Toriyama wanting to end the series when he did. Because it was like, when you finally reach that super form, what could you that's the climax. That's it. And then, well, you got to keep going, so I guess we got to get stronger. So everybody else has got to be because it was the legendary Super Saiyan. There was only supposed to be one. And then you had to keep moving on with the show, so then you had to make all the other Saiyans Super Saiyan and introduce new forms, and that's where we got to the ridiculousness that was Super Saiyan 4, or that there were 8-year-olds that were Super Saiyans in the Buu Saga. So Revival of It comes around, not as well received as Battle of Gods, but still extremely popular.
Okay.
And so immediately after that, Toei says, oh, by the way, we're going to announce a brand new series. Brand new Dragon Ball series. And in the interim, they had been running Dragon Ball series, but it was called Dragon Ball Kai.
Yeah, the abridged. Not YouTube abridged, but They took out the filler scenes.
They took out the filler. It was supposed to be true to the manga, just the scenes that were in the comic books themselves. And that was fine, but when it was first announced, people thought it was going to be them redrawing everything and it was going to be updating the art style. No, they just, some of the scenes that need to be corrected, and you can tell which ones are corrected and which ones aren't, because some look cleaner than others.
Yeah.
And it just, the music was different, and it was fine. It just wasn't completely necessary. It was basically just rerunning Dragon Ball, but with, less stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so they needed something to replace that time slot. And so as soon as the Buu Saga ended in Japan on TV, they were going to pick up with Dragon Ball Super. Now, here's my issue with Dragon Ball Super so far.
Okay.
When it was announced, we were like, oh, is it going to be brand new material? You're going to get all these new characters, and Akira Toriyama's involved, and it's going to be this is a canon series because Akira Toriyama is directly involved. So essentially, this retcons GT.
Well, probably not the worst idea.
Right. I mean, there's some question about the time frame because GT takes place several years after the end of Dragon Ball Z, whereas this takes place it starts 6 to 13 months.
Yeah. It starts just a year after the Buu Saga.
Right, and so there was the question of, well, is this just going to be the filler in between Dragon Ball Z and GT, and is it going to link? But it doesn't seem like that's the case because, as we see now, because the Battle of Gods was canon, they said it was canon, but then the start of Super was supposed to be before Battle of Gods happened, because Battle of Gods happened 3 years after the end of Buu. But then, when we start doing Dragon Ball Super, they announced that basically the first two sagas are going to be retellings of the movies that we already saw.
So if they're retellings of the movie they already saw, now I've seen I've seen most of the first couple of episodes of Dragon Ball Super. I haven't seen those last two movies. I just never got the chance to. So I want to ask you, how much from those? How much animation is reused, or is it a completely original retelling, or are they slicing the movies differently?
It's all redrawn. Okay. It's to a T almost the same story. There are certain things different, like in the movie Battle of Gods, it starts out as Bulma's birthday party, but the birthday party is at Capsule Corporation, whereas in the show it's on a cruise ship.
Okay.
And there's certain, the first couple episodes are not in the movie. The first couple episodes are, here's where all of our heroes are now. Oh, look, Goku's a farmer.
Yeah, he's a radish farmer.
Yeah, he's a radish farmer. And Vegeta goes on a family trip to an amusement park, and it's funny, and it's great. It's these are your characters in different situations. And then then the very next episode, it's Goku's like, oh, who's the god of destruction? And we got to do this whole thing all over again. And they basically tell that story to a T. And that was the first 13 episodes, or first 14 episodes, were the retelling of Battle of Gods. So now, it to a T, it was the same thing, revealing that you need the 4 Super Saiyans to be a Super Saiyan God, and oh my god, Vidal's pregnant with, Gohan's child, so then there's a fifth Saiyan, whatever. And it still it ends similarly with Goku losing, but there's certain points that are slightly changed. Like in the movie, Beerus says, well, you lost, so I agreed that I would destroy the Earth, and then he just blows up like a rock. He's like, oh, I blew up part of the Earth. And so moves away. And then in this one, he's about to destroy the Earth and then falls asleep and shoots his blast into space.
God, oh god.
So it's the same, but little tweaks, but not far enough away to say that it's not you just telling me what the movie already told me. So the next saga was going to be Frieza, the revival of F. Or they've already said that's what they're going to do. But in the first episode that they released last weekend, the episode 15, I haven't seen this week's yet. Oh no, I did. I just watched it because it came out yesterday morning. They're in this in-between part, and this was going to be more the more interesting parts, the in-between, because in the opening in the series opener, like, you know, the theme song and all that, they introduce a character who's basically a fat version of Beerus, and his name is Champa. And supposedly, there's been they've left little bits and pieces, but essentially, once we get through Frieza, we're supposed to go into this multiple universe theory of Dragon Ball, where Beerus is the god of destruction in this universe, in universe number 6, I think they called it.
Oh, they're going to J.J. Abrams.
Well, and Champa is supposed to be looking for these quote-unquote super Dragon Balls, where there's one in each of the 7 universes.
Okay.
And they were supposed to travel across universes, and that seemed really exciting, but we're going through all this stuff. And the other interesting thing is, in Japan, in what they call V-Jump, it's their video game magazine. It's a partner to Shonen Jump, which is the manga magazine there. Mm-hmm. They've been producing Dragon Ball Super, a companion comic. It started out doing the same thing, but then they introduced that new character Champa very early, and so far it's diverging greatly from the show itself. Mm-hmm. And so you look at what's going on in the comic and you think, well, that's cool new stuff. I want to see that. I already saw the movie. I saw Battle of Gods. I saw Revival of F. I don't need to sit here for 26 episodes before I see something new. So we're now in between the two sagas, so we thought that this might be a spot for them to do something new. And it's basically showing us how we get from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. Because one of the other interesting things from the movie to the other movie is somehow Vegeta gained Super Saiyan God status, and by the time that movie starts, both Goku and Vegeta know how to become the Blooper Saiyan, the blue hair.
Vegeta is able to achieve any form Goku's able to achieve through the sheer power of butthurt and jealousy. You know, I'm just convinced that's how that works.
Pretty much. So, actually, the last episode was kind of interesting because it was fun. It showed Vegeta trying to cook an omelet for Whis, the master of Beerus. And at the end of it, Whis agrees to train Vegeta back at their planet. And that's where you start off Revival of F, is Goku and Vegeta training on that planet. So that's an interesting way to get from point A to point B. But as far as I can tell, it's not going to be anything different. And that's kind of disappointing. Yeah. You know? Because it's a brand new Dragon Ball series. The first one in 18 years. It's canon. It has Akira Toriyama involved. It's going to be all this cool stuff. And Goku, Super Saiyan God. Whoa, cool, great. And then it's just like, oh yeah, those 2 movies that everybody liked, we're just going to chop them up into 13 slices and let you watch it again. I
mean, that just seems odd considering, as you said, these movies did extremely well. Earlier I mentioned I never got around to seeing them, but I think as far as people who are into Dragon Ball goes, I'm in the minority on that front, and it seems as if most people who would be interested in a new series are already intimately familiar with these films, so I don't understand. Unless they're just really dedicated to that whole practice of keeping the movies and the animated movies and the series separate as far as canon goes, because they've done that before. I think that there were occasional made-for-TV movies in Japan for Dragon Ball Z, I guess.
Yeah, they had things on TV. They had TV. They had 2 canon movies that were on TV: The History of Trunks and Bardock, the Father of Goku. And then alongside the series itself, they made 13 Dragon Ball Z movies that were not canon. There's only 2, or maybe 3 if you want to stretch it, that you could actually fit into the timeline logically of the actual show. But some of the parts still don't make sense. Like, the first one you could throw in is Dead Zone, which was the first movie. And you could say, well, that's before Raditz comes.
Is that Garlic Jr.?
That's Garlic Jr.
Yeah.
So you think, oh, that could be right before the start of Dragon Ball Z. Except that when they start Dragon Ball Z, Goku and Piccolo have never worked together or are enemies.
Yeah.
Don't want to be friends. But if they had worked together against Garlic Jr., then that's that. And the other thing that screwed that up is because one of the filler sagas they made in Dragon Ball Z for the TV show was the Garlic Jr. saga, which was god-awful and 10 episodes of poop.
Yeah.
And then the other one that you could put in there is movie, I think, 9. It's in between the Cell Saga and the Majin Buu Saga. Gohan is a Super Saiyan 2. He's, a young adult, and they fight some space pirate that was locked inside King Kai's planet that got released when Goku brought Cell up there and blew it up. It was weird.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I'm thinking. It just seems to me like this might have been this might not have been a creative thing. I'm just thinking that it might have been a corporate thing where some guy at Toei was like, "No, we always keep the movies and the cartoon, the movies and the series separate. So do it all again if you want to include it." And maybe that is because again, like if that's the only thing I could think of. Because if everyone's seen these movies, there's really no need to get anyone up to speed. And someone like me who hasn't seen the movies, if I'm so inclined, I'll be like, oh, it would just encourage me to go seek them out. So I'm not sure what thinking is.
I've definitely skipped a couple of the episodes already because like I watched the first 3 or 4, and then once I saw like, oh, we're really just gonna do this note for note. I would check in every week or two and be like, what are we doing now? Okay. And then if there was a scene in the movie that I thought was great, I wanted to see how they did it on the show. And one of them was kind of disappointing. Like in the movie, Vegeta does this because he's trying to just appease everybody and make sure Beerus doesn't blow up the planet and get mad. He does this bingo dance.
God.
And it's hilarious. Like, it comes out of left field in the movie. And you're just like, whoa, this is amazing. This is hilarious. Vegeta's being silly. You never see that.
Yeah. And
they changed it slightly in the show. I don't think it was for bingo. I think it was Vegeta just like, look at all the food. And it's like, oh, okay, well, whatever. And then they go note for note. And I watched the last couple things just to see the fight and the new animation. The new animation's good. It's clean. It's updated. It's very nice. But again, yeah, if you've already seen the movies, what's the point? And I think really what I think the problem is, or why they're doing what they're doing, is literally like the show started up, I don't know, like a month after the movie was released in Japan, like the second movie. So it almost seemed like they were rushing it out. Like they announced it on April 28th. They announced it. Mm-hmm. And then the show started on July 5th. That's 2 months.
Yeah.
By the way, it's like, everybody, we're making a new Dragon Ball Z series. It's going to be out in 2 months. Enjoy it. It's like, what? Where did this come from?
Well,
and that's 2 months?
We got some movies and just splice them up. Here.
Yeah, and so it's I'm more interested to see where it goes from here on, because really I think the premise of the Frieza movie was kind of very flimsy. It's like people were like, oh, people like Frieza, let's show him again, and it's like,
But I like Frieza in part because the Frieza arc was so well done in the original show, in my opinion. Like, I like Frieza, but I don't want to see him come back because that story kind of reached its natural conclusion, right?
Yeah. And the other problem I had with the movie was it was so typical of how these Dragon Ball movies go. Everything is, you cut to Earth, everything's sunshine and rainbows, and who's this mysterious figure coming from the sky? Oh God, it's Frieza. Everybody, then, all the lower Z fighters fight the minions. They beat all the minions, then Frieza comes out, beats the lower Z fighters. Goku shows up to save the day.
Poor Yamcha.
Yamcha spared, not in this one.
Okay.
But they did bring in, it was weird, there was a offshoot comic in Japan called Jocko, the Galactic Patrolman, and it was put into the Dragon Ball canon because it was written by Akira Toriyama, and it was like this outer space intergalactic police force, and they decided to throw him into the movie because he was a really popular comic book character, and it was just like, it made no sense. But he met Bulma when Bulma was younger before she met Goku or something. It was kind of flimsy. Anyway, the story goes, and then Frieza comes out, knocks everybody down. Then Goku shows up. Then they struggle for a bit. Then they say, "Oh, well, now it's time to show you my real form." Shows new form. Goku transforms. They fight. Eventually, Goku succeeds, blows everybody up. The end. And they did a really weak retcon sort of thing. Like, Goku, like, essentially Frieza won at the initially.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, oh, remember when at the very beginning of the movie we turned time back 30 seconds to like...
They Superman the movie it.
Yeah, so he was like, oh, yeah, we can still save everyone. I can do it back 30 seconds and you can fix your mistake. And they're like, oh, go back 30 seconds. Goku decides to act quickly.
I mean, at that point, you might as well... I mean, if you're going to do that, you might as well just draw in Superman flying in the opposite direction to reverse the orbit of the Earth.
Yeah, pretty much. So it was kind of a weak movie, and that's why I'm not really excited to see it in elongated series form.
In
because
episodic format where they might add 3 minutes an episode of people powering up.
Right. So, like, the Battle of Gods arc started in episode 3, ended in episode 14. So essentially 11 or 12 episodes. So if they do that again with Frieza, that 11 or 12 episodes, that episode 3 aired on July 19th. Episode 14 aired on October 11th. That's 3 months. 3 months where it's stuff we've already seen. And the best part is, like, the other part with Battle of Gods, not only was it in theaters just 2 years before, but the way it works in Japan is after a certain amount of time, they play the movie on TV. So they played the movie on TV, like, literally 2 months before the start of the show. So if you didn't see it in theaters or didn't see it when it came out on home release, you could have seen it on TV, and now you're having to watch it again for 3 months.
Yeah,
And the DVD release of Revival of F is coming out soon. So if we only go a couple more episodes before they do that, then you could watch the movie on DVD and not watch the next 3 months of TV show.
It really is baffling because I couldn't think of a better way to completely murder the hype.
Yeah.
And excitement of a new series.
Yeah, I mean, we loved, Dragon Ball fans, we loved these new movies. They got us recharged for Dragon Ball. And then they say, oh, there's a new series. Oh, man, these 2 movies were so great. I can't wait to have this back in my life every week. This is going to be great. And it's, well, you like the movies, here's the show. And it's just, it's a huge letdown.
On the plus side, though, the series has been confirmed that it's going to continue... of course, past these retellings, and
yes.
It's going to, and that's when they're going to get into that tie-in comic, that I guess tie-in manga, with the alternate universes and tracking down
Super Dragon Balls.
My only concern is that they kind of use that as an option to be like, oh, GT's still canon in this other universe, and
right. And that's what some people have kind of hypothesized, that maybe by doing this they can just say, oh, no, GT's an alternate universe. In much in the same way that when Trunks came back and forth through time in the Cell Saga, he wasn't traveling back and forth in that timeline.
Yeah.
It was a split timeline theory. And so there's actually, based on those movements back and forth, some people have extended that timeline theory to say, well, the main Dragon Ball Z is on one timeline. GT is actually an offshoot from one of the times that Trunks went back in time and killed an android or killed Cell. And then Trunks' timeline is the other offshoot. It's a lot of justification for something that there shouldn't be this much justification.
No. Nobody should be doing mental gymnastics to make GT work.
Right. It's kind of like, we've talked about it many times on basically a sports show. It's basically an Oklahoma City Thunder problem.
Yeah.
You can't just buy somebody's history or leave a history box somewhere and say, this is yours now. It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, exactly. You really can't do that. But on the other hand, I'm kind of thinking about what this alternate universe, what this kind of thing could encompass. And I haven't read the manga that explores this concept, so maybe you can tell me if I'm...
Well, they haven't exactly gone into the alternate universes yet.
Oh, okay. Well,
Champa's come around.
Well,
Which, by the way, again, Dragon Ball puns, these new characters. Beerus, the God of Destruction. Beerus in Japanese is actually just Beers. So beers, and then Champa is short for champagne.
Oh, so they're going alcohol now.
Yes.
Oh, well, I can't get too mad because I just find Goku being a radish farmer to be hilarious.
Yes.
But I guess, and this is just me spitballing here, I'd really love it if a franchise that has multiple sort of universes like Dragon Ball, if they did a multi-universe story that didn't actually try to bring in various versions of the same characters, like, okay, have an alternate universe, but instead of filling it with, like, a near copies of everyone, go into the alternate universe and release, like, Lovecraftian horrors upon the world. Let's see, like, Cthulhu versus Goku. I mean, come on.
Well, I think there's been some speculation, of course, because when it's alternate universe, you could do everything. So the easy ones are just, evil Goku versus evil,
Goku.
You know,
Good
Goku versus evil Goku.
I'm okay with evil Goku if they give him a goatee.
Yeah. Well, one of the interesting ideas, that is thrown, because in the video games, they do a lot of this alternate history, what if sort of ideas, because they're video games, who cares? But one theory that I think would be fun, and I think there was somebody made, like, it was like a very seriously adapted a fan comic where things were reversed, and Vegeta as a child was sent to Earth.
Huh.
And Goku was the minion of Frieza, and everything that happened to Goku happened to Vegeta. So he grew up to be the good guy that fell on his head, became a Super Saiyan, overcame Frieza. And Goku was the bitter rival that was constantly being bested. So it was an interesting idea, which I think if you could do stuff like that where you just have the same characters but flip them in such a way that maybe Frieza won in this universe. Maybe, Gohan continued to train and was the strongest. Things like that, where it's a what if. I think that'd be interesting, but they released all the information about these first couple sagas. They're not telling us anything about the alternate universe thing outside of, here's Champa, who's basically a fat version of Beerus, and he's from a different universe. There's multiple universes. Get ready for that. A
universe where everyone is fat.
Yes.
It's just everyone just has a fat doppelganger. That's it.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes, but it still does some of the same tropes already. Like, even though this part wasn't in the movie, like, they do, Beerus is defeated and whatever, and then in the last episode, Mr. Satan, Hercule,
I love that guy.
Takes credit for saving the world from the God of Destruction. And an alien comes down from another planet to thank the person who defeated the God of Destruction. Or thank whoever beat the God of Destruction. And they're like, oh, well, we also brought our greatest warrior, and he would like to fight with you. So it leads to much hilarity.
Indeed. Well, it is a shame to hear that they're just retreading old ground with these first couple episodes, but I definitely think there's a lot of possibility in this alternate universe take. Again, but that cuts both ways. I just don't want it to be kind of so cliched. I don't want them to, I guess, J.J. Abrams Star Trek us necessarily, but
yeah. I don't need to meet old Leonard Nimoy in this show.
No.
Like, Goku travels through time and meets an older, wiser Goku. Go back and save the universe.
Or he tells him about everything that he needs to... Yeah. But, but the plus side is lots of interesting possibilities as well. So I'm definitely excited. Super Dragon Balls, it kind of almost seems cheesy. But at the same time, Dragon Ball, I think, is inherently cheesy. So when it kind of just plays up that cheesiness, and it's like, we're cheesy and awesome, and that's the show, I think that's when it's at its best.
No, for sure. When and that's the thing about why GT didn't work, is because it tried to cut it in half. It tried to be kind of cheesy but super serious and whatever. So tried to get cheesy with Kid Goku and traveling all these weird worlds, but then he's still super serious and eventually has to fight a big evil and go Super Saiyan 4 and serious space. Like, the only thing worth redeeming out of Dragon Ball GT really is the evil dragons the final saga of that, because the first part with Baby and traveling the universe, stupid. Super 17, like there's a pit from hell and 17's gonna murder. It's just stupid. The evil Dragon Balls was an interesting concept because it's like you've been using the Dragon Balls too much. Mm-hmm. They shouldn't be used this much. So this is all the negative energy that's built up, and they've manifested itself. Now go fight them.
No, that I thought was interesting because it really does. Once you kind of take a step back and look at the series as like you take a series in the long view, it's like, oh wow, they really abuse those things.
Yeah,
like you kind of get the feeling this is like they're like ancient relics of a bygone era that once in like 5 generations someone who's worthy is able to assemble them. It's like, nah, they just...
That's why I like in Dragon Ball Abridged whenever they summon Shenron, he's like, oh.
You again.
You again? Is there nobody else that finds these damn things?
That and Mr. Popo also. Make Abridged Mr. Popo canon because...
Yeah. He strikes fear into the hearts of everyone. By the way, speaking of Mr. Popo, that Dragon Ball Kai thing, when it was brought over to the United States, when Dragon Ball Z originally came over, Mr. Popo was very black, right?
Yes, because Japan does not have the history of race relations that the Western world does. And
he stayed like that in the original run of Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
When Dragon Ball Kai came over and they were showing it on the WB or the CW, mm-hmm. the Saturday morning cartoons, they made him blue.
Not even like a blue
like
that
royal blue.
Like, it looks like they just took a blue Sharpie
and colored him in.
Yeah, it looks really bad, but...
yeah, that was good. That was really solid work, censors.
Indeed. That's just right up there for the old Pokemon shows. Whenever they would take out rice balls, it's like, they're hamburgers! Like that's one of the best things about anime is just watching Western companies fumble in their attempts to like make Japanese sensibilities relatable.
Right.
To kids in the West, but that, oh god.
Sometimes you just need to let things go, and when you're older, you can look up the cultural translations.
Oh yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Well, I know you got to get going, Zach. So
I do.
I won't keep you here much longer. Thanks for stopping by.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I love talking about Dragon Ball. My favorite thing as a child. So
it
still lives on today.
It's definitely awesome. And I guess we will see you next. Come the next basically a football show.
Yeah, I'll get to talk about your Chargers being down 30-6 to the Raiders at half.
Well, you know what? After last week in Green Bay, I don't even. Best game of Philip Rivers' career, and it means jack and shit. So
it's okay. The Colts lost to the Saints today, so
we're all in the same boat of pity and wallowing.
Football's fun. Come listen to us talk about it.
Again, thanks for stopping by, Zach.
No problem.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 62 of Bags. Zach has departed us, but joining with me, regular Bags co-host, Jack.
Sup, bitches?
So, I know, you missed out on the chance to make loads of Dragon Ball Abridged jokes in that last segment that we just did.
Okay, I'll just go ahead, since I wasn't available to be present for that segment, I'm just going to go ahead and say my thoughts right now. This is pretty much all I would have said during that, however long you guys were talking about that. DBZ Abridged is in every way, shape, and form superior to the original. Mm-hmm. If you have not seen the original, do not waste your time with it. Just watch Abridged. If you have seen the original, watch Abridged, and you will forget you've ever seen the original. Also, Vegeta in a pink shirt that says "Cum Dumpster" on the back.
Pretty much, yeah.
Nell, stop making out with your boyfriend.
Nell, I'm speaking for you.
Clean my jowls. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say about DBZ. I mean...
Mr. Popo, where are they?
I'll tell you where they're not. Safe. Fucking love it. It is literally the funniest goddamn thing I've ever watched in my life. And I consider myself to be a connoisseur of comedy. And it is the funniest fucking thing in existence, hands down, period.
Well, let us, we've got kind of an unrelated show, and we've got a lot of interesting topics, little to no relation, so we're gonna jump right from one space opera in Dragon Ball to another space opera, cause, the Force Unleashed trailer, Star Wars Episode 7 Force Unleashed hit, the first non-teaser trailer hit, and everyone lost their freaking minds. Zach mentioned on the last, basically a sports show, that he was in tears. Greg was very impressed as well. I have watched the damn thing. It's got to be pushing 50 times by now, and and as I'm sitting here,
oh, you people.
As I'm sitting here, Jack has a Skype picture up that says, "Am I the only one here who thinks Star Wars is fucking overrated?" So, you heard myself, Zach, and Greg sort of gush over this thing, on the last episode of Basically a Sports Show. And now you get a bit of a different discussion on Basically a Geek Show, as Jack is here to piss on the parade.
Look, okay, I will preface this like I've prefaced all these Star Wars discussions. I don't dislike Star Wars. I really don't. But they're just fucking movies, okay? Like, everyone, fucking take your Midol and fucking calm the fuck down.
You know what Star Wars has that Star Trek didn't have? Or I should change that. You know why Star Wars is better? Because Star Trek had something that Star Wars thankfully left out. Beige bridges.
Don't care. No, I generally, I mean, I know we did a show devoted to the Trek versus Star Wars debate.
Yeah, we did.
But we did it just more or less for fun. I don't get involved in those discussions. I don't really give a shit.
No. Me neither. And I think, in that show, we both kind of came to the conclusion of, hey, we both like spaceships that blow up, so can't we all just get along?
Okay. My opinion on the new Star Wars trailer, and I will also preface this by saying, yes, I will be going to see this in the theater.
And also, I want to throw out, I know we usually don't do spoilers, and what we're about to talk about isn't even necessarily a spoiler, but we are going to get into a specific discussion about one possible plot point in the new movie. It may not even pan out to be true, but in the event that it is, just be forewarned, we might inadvertently spoil something. Maybe.
Don't care. Don't care. Anyways, so... I mean, that being said, I am looking forward to the movie, for different reasons, I think, than like a lot of the hardcore Star Wars fans are. Look, okay, to me, it's just another sci-fi movie. Or sci-fantasy, whatever you want to call it. I just want to go, see shit get blowed up real good, and have a good time.
Well, that was my justification for seeing Jupiter Ascending, and that turned out to be a steaming pile of horseshit, so...
I mean, in that regard, I'm going to go into episode 7 with no different expectations than I would have for Avengers or a Marvel movie, because I'm expecting the same thing out of them. And I know a lot of you hardcore Star Wars guys are sitting over there, biting your fingers off and shit. And that's fine. That's your right. We all like our things. But to me, they're just movies, right? And hopefully good movies. I think we're all in universal agreement that the prequels were shite.
Except for Palpatine, he's awesome. And
yeah.
I'm lamenting the fact that he won't be back.
Yeah, Palpatine is the reason why I do rewatch the prequels sometimes, because he just gave no fucks at all, and it's so great.
Unlimited power!
Exactly. So yeah, Mike's like, oh my god, I watched the Star Wars trailer, and now my wall is covered in semen. And I'm just like, oh dude, put it in your britches, man, I don't care, and let me just watch this, alright, hold on a second. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching it. And, like, one thing, just like there's this voice in my head, I mean, well, a different voice in my head besides the one that's telling me to stab Everett in the neck with a number 2 pencil. A different voice in my head that just kept screaming this one underlying thing, and to me, a blind man could fucking see it in a minute. I might be wrong, but, you know, I tell Mike, I'm like, alright, so I'm done watching it. Oh, what'd you think? So, Luke's the bad guy, huh? Because, to me, okay, let me explain to everyone where I'm coming from this. I know you've heard it already. But, alright. So you only see one shot that's kind of Luke. You see the cybernetic hand reaching up, lovingly caressing R2-D2, because if you're a hermit for that many years, even a trash can can become hot. And
also, R2-D2 never judges him.
Right, and I'm not here to judge either. You know, more power to you if you want to fuck a trash can. That being said, though, that's the only time you see Luke. Or even like a part of Luke. Mm-hmm. And throughout the rest of the trailer, all you see are Han and Leia of the original cast. And then you see the other people that don't matter. But you see Han and Leia. And, you know, then you see Miss
Chewie.
Oh yeah, you see Chewie, right.
And he's still pissed off he never got his medal from the end of A New Hope.
You see, I'm kind of weird. Like, I throw Chewie, to me Chewie's a prop. Like R2-D2 and C-3PO.
Aww.
Like, because of, I don't know, like the Wookiee suit, whatever. I don't know. I just always think of him as in like the same category as the droids. It's just kind of like a comic relief prop kind of a thing. And I know that's making people rage, and that's fine. I really don't care. Whatever. But to me, Chewie's just kind of like there, sort of a thing. But yeah, so yeah, you do see Han and Chewie and Leia. But that's really all you see besides the new people who really cares about them at this point at least. You never see Luke.
You see a black guy named Finn, and that just blows my mind.
About why would a black guy be named Finn?
Yeah, I'm just saying, Finn is like one of the whitest names you can think of.
Well, okay.
It's like a white guy, it's like a white guy named Tyrone. Like, I mean,
well, yeah, that's what I was about to say. I don't think, you know, given the audience that usually goes to see, and I'm not saying, you know, black people don't like Star Wars. I'm not saying that at all. But most of them are us white nerdy fuckers. And for their demographic, you know, following the chronicles of Trayvon the Stormtrooper, probably just didn't test as well with the focus groups.
Now, interesting thing about Finn, J.J. Abrams has said that it's intentional that no last name has been given, but he's either related to Mace Windu or Lando Calrissian, the only two black people of note in Star Wars.
Yeah, the only two black people in that particular galaxy. I mean, he's got to be related to one of them.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, it's like if Canada were a galaxy.
And I'm kind of hoping that, would that make Harper Palpatine?
Depending on whom you ask.
Depending on your point of view.
Yeah, it's true from a certain point of view.
But yeah, no, I'm hoping Finn's last name is Windu, just so we get,
Findu.
Just so we have the opportunity to have angry Force spirit ghost, Samuel L. Jackson.
Well, anyways, so Luke being the bad guy. So, yeah, you only see Han, Leia, and Chewie. You don't really see Luke at all in the trailer, except for that one scene at the beginning. Then you see, Mr. Force-wielding Sith Lord bad guy with cross...
He's not a Sith.
Whatever. Okay, now, is Sith a species or a fucking title?
No, Sith is it's an order, like Jedi.
Okay. Then how do you know he's not a Sith?
Because the Sith followed a very strict rule called the Rule of Two, basically because they had this huge Sith empire that like collapsed in on itself because they were all backstabbing power.
Right, yeah, and there can only be two, right? A master and apprentice, and both died.
Yeah.
But
Vader and Palpatine kicked it, so there's no other Sith left.
Well, okay, so there were no Sith, but there had to be a first Sith, so there's a new first Sith, maybe. Who fucking knows, right?
Well, they've already said that Kylo Ren, who seems to be the main bad guy here, is a member of a dark side worshipping faction called the Knights of Ren. So they aren't Sith, but they're from what we can gather, they seem like while not being Sith, they are an order that sort of sees themselves as the heirs of the Sith.
It's going to be like the Sith version of the Holy Roman Empire, right?
We're all just going to sort of pretend it's the same thing?
Right, exactly. I am heir to the Roman throne. Sure, it'll be fun to pretend for a couple hundred years. Yeah, let's go with that. It'll be great. And yeah, that's kind of probably what they'll end up doing with it. But yeah, so you see Kylo Ren, again, always in the mask. And what's of also note here is that in this technologically advanced civilization, the 24-hour news station, or even competent historical chronicling, I mean, because the events of Return of the Jedi had a lot of fucking witnesses.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like it happened it did happen on a remote outpost world, but there were people there, nigga. There were people there. They seen shit. Like, everyone involved on the Alliance side, on the Rebel Alliance side, knew what the fuck went down, knew what the fuck was going on, and yet somehow, a mere 30 fucking years into the future, because no one bothered to scribble it down on a fucking post-it note, the whole Jedi thing is just once again considered to be a fucking myth.
Okay, I can justify that. There is a way I can justify that whole, the Jedi are a myth thing.
Okay, take us through this never-ending festival of flaming hoops.
Okay. Palpatine wanted to completely destroy the Jedi Order. That was the Sith master plan, and Palpatine was the fulfillment of that, and the events of Revenge of the Sith were basically the fulfillment of Palpatine wiping out the Jedi Order.
Right.
And so, the thing about you have to remember is that the galaxy's a big fucking place. And for a lot of people, the vast majority of galactic citizens never actually saw or met a Jedi in person, so it would have been very easy for Palpatine's propaganda machine to basically say, oh, the Jedi were just a bunch of charlatans and they never had any mystical powers after he took over.
Okay, but we're talking after Palpatine's defeat, after the Empire, while obviously not destroyed, has been heavily damaged and is basically just, I mean, it's still a thing, we don't know how much of a thing, but it's definitely diminished in power. So that reach of that propaganda network isn't going to be anything near what it was before. And where they might have once believed that, where the people from, the new, I'm assuming they formed a new Galactic Republic or some shit that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A book's been released called Aftermath, which basically lays out the events between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, and it's basically Rebel Alliance forms a new, forms something called the New Republic.
Yeah. Save your Galactic Republic money, boys. We're going to rise again.
They form the Galactic Republic. They form the New Galactic Republic, and the Empire continues to exist, and basically the Republic expands and takes over most of the galaxy, and the Empire remains fortified in the Outer Rim and in various enclaves, and there's basically a Cold War going on now between the two sides.
Okay, so you have that going. So at least the people in the New Republic should be fucking aware of what's going on. Now, the comment that the Jedi were a myth or whatever, those could have been made within the context of an individual who's only been on the Empire side saying that. That's entirely possible. But I'm saying that did stand out to me as a huge, like, what the fuck? Don't you people have... I mean, you have, fucking droids and cybernetic parts and all this other cool shit, but you don't have a fucking iPad? You can't post on fucking Twitter?
keep in mind, Obi-Wan Kenobi, his remark to R2-D2, I don't remember owning a droid. Oh, Ben, you don't remember the same fucking droid that you palled around with for 10 years?
Okay, so you're basically just keep in mind that nothing in the Star Wars universe really ever has to make any sense. Just shut the fuck up and watch the movie they give you. Gotcha. I can buy that. That's a fine justification. I'm good with that.
I'm saying that I'm saying that long-term memory seems to
be an issue in this universe.
Yeah, that and given that the end of Palpatine's death and the destruction of the second Death Star led to even greater amounts of chaos, you had the New Republic, you had the Empire still going on. Lines of communication, as they always are in war, were either shut down completely or severely limited. I'm just saying that the flow of information I don't think is as great as you think it might be.
Fair enough. Okay, so now the last piece of my argument that I think Luke is the bad guy is, so I mean there's really not going to be anyone else unless this Dark Order, somehow come across Sith knowledge and use it to basically for one of them to more or less become a Sith, a Force manipulator of the dark side. Luke's the only one that can do it. And from a storytelling standpoint, I'm coming at this from a completely unbiased perspective. I just want a good, interesting movie. I don't care if Luke is a bad guy or a good guy. I have no dog in this fight at all. I'm saying that from a storytelling standpoint, that it makes sense because that's just kind of this overarching theme throughout the entire previous 6 movies, yes, even including the goddamn prequels. Be the hero long enough and you'll see yourself become the villain. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but again though, I say that the end of Jedi, that doesn't hold true because at the end of the Jedi, Palpatine is trying to tempt Luke over to the dark side and Luke resists at the end of the dark side.
Luke resists, but Luke hadn't gone mad from years of isolation either.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been implied that he has gone a little bit wonky.
Yes. Mark Hamill has been sporting the crazy man beard that he says they made him grow out for Star Wars.
And keep in mind also that, again, while I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan in the world, I do know a little bit of what I'm talking about here and there. It was never said, Luke was never prophesized to be a good guy. He was never prophesized to be a savior. He was prophesized to bring balance to the Force. Mm-hmm. Now, balance, if you take what you know of the Jedi belief, balance isn't always good, quote unquote. It's not always light. It's whatever needs to be done in some cases. Like the Jedi have a few, beliefs that you and I in our civilization be like, what? Like the whole, can't be, like priests, kind of like you can't be married, you can't do this, can't do that.
That's why I actually always sort of liked the Sith. The Sith seemed to have more natural understanding of the Force in that they weren't so dogmatic, I guess.
Yeah. I get you.
It was more the Sith philosophy tended to focus more on drawing power from your emotions, or as the Jedi seemed to emphasize meditation and cutting yourself off from worldly desires. And I find personally the former to be more natural than the latter.
Well, yeah, but I mean, so you see there that Luke is not going by the canon of the original trilogy, and even the prequels, which whatever. But he's never said to be a fucking saint. He's just going to bring balance. So what if his role is simply to bring that balance? Dark was overpowering light. He corrected it. Now, what if the other is true, and he's correcting that?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's gone batshit insane and fucks R2-D2. I'm just saying, I may be wrong, but I do have a track record on this kind of shit.
Well, it is interesting. I showed my mom this trailer. I texted her the link, said, hey, check this out, it's pretty cool. 2 minutes later, she texts me back, so Luke's the bad guy, huh?
Love it. I fucking love it. Mike's mom, if you were listening, fucking high five. Yes. And you were just like, God damn it.
We've got, and we've got a few other, fans, fan of the show, Rams80, mentioned that he feels as if, this is inevitable. He even brought up a good point that, J.J. Abrams did this once before in Star Trek Into Darkness, where it was like, who is the bad guy? Trying, playing this, like, mystery game of the villain. Where we all knew Benedict Cumberbatch was the villain, but we didn't know who it was supposed to be until the movie when he was like, Khan.
Right.
And, I don't know if, obviously this is a bit of a different circumstance, and I don't know if he'd repeat that, but there's a track record there. Another friend of the show, Cosmic, responded to this, with, I don't feel like typing out spoiler tags, so I'll just say that if these particular rumors are true, it would honestly be 100 times worse to me than if Jar Jar Binks than the new Jedi Order. It could honestly be the worst thing to ever happen to Star Wars, and I will hold a grudge against everyone involved for the rest of my life. The person who proposed it at a story meeting should have been shot immediately from several different directions just out of pure instinct by multiple people.
See, and that's what our community needs. More calm, measured, well thought out reactions like that. I mean, too often people go off the deep end and threaten to say people should be shot. Oh wait, never mind.
Also, I can't really fault Cosmic for this reaction, because that was basically me immediately following Iron Man 3. So.
Well, and, okay, again though, the difference between that scenario and Iron Man 3 is, we haven't been promised anything with Episode 7. In Iron Man 3, those fuckers promised us the fucking Mandarin.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a, yeah, well, a cross between Ian Anderson and a fucking white Steve Urkel.
And generic blonde guy as the villain.
Well, that's what I was talking about.
Oh, yeah.
With white Steve Urkel, yeah.
Oh, yeah, when he's all nerdy.
Yeah, herp derp, yeah.
Whose entire plot, whose entire motivation was Tony Stark stood me up at a meeting one time 13 years ago.
He must pay. I mean, how do you think the hooker laying in the motel room with a fucking line of coke on her chest felt when he never showed up?
It's like, look, as far as I'm concerned, in the Marvel universe, it's a rite of passage to be disrespected by a drunk Tony Stark at a high society get together.
Exactly. So, I mean, again, with me, all I hope for is that it's going to be a good movie. And can we at least all agree that as long as it's not the prequels, well, we should all be pretty happy.
Well, I do have high hopes. J.J. Abrams seems like the perfect guy to direct a Star Wars movie. Like, he probably should have been the guy directing the prequels. I am legitimately excited. I can't wait. And I'm particularly excited for this one because, look, I don't have any information about what they're going to do beyond episode 7, but I have a feeling that they're going to really start emphasizing, the new cast members for episodes 8 and 9, and that's fine. That's completely fine. But I'm looking forward to this because this looks like it's going to be like the final hurrah of like Luke, Chewie, Han, and Leia, and I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see those characters one more time before they all go their separate ways.
The thing that I'm concerned about here is that this movie is not going to live up to people's expectations. For those like yourself, and some of the more, passionate Star Wars fans. My fear is that it's going to suffer the same fate the Star Trek Generations did. that, everyone's like, oh my god, it should have been this way, it should have been that way, blah, 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 blah. And to me, Star Trek Generations was an okay movie. It did what it needed to do, and it did it competently. And whenever you have, this is going to be these, the original cast. Most likely it will be their last hurrah. Who knows for sure, but most likely it will be. And there's so much expectation there that this movie, literally cannot live up to. And I just don't want to see what will be an otherwise solid flick being derided because, in a fit of franchise passion lust, people, grab their fucking pitchforks and torches and are screaming for Abrams' head on a fucking pike.
I don't think that's a concern. I think so long as they are better than the prequels, so long as they are just fun movies, then you won't have a problem.
We'll see. I hope you're right. But I don't know. I don't know. Abrams did a great job with Star Trek. I know a lot of other Star Trek fans would want to beat my head in for that, and they can go fuck themselves. I think he did a great job with it. And me, of course, having more of a Star Trek leaning bias than Star Wars. Even with Star Trek, I can take those movies and view them as their own thing. And, guess what, guys? TNG is still there.
Nope. Erase from existence.
Deep Space Nine is still there.
Erase from existence.
Voyager, unfortunately, is still there.
The only show that's still canon is Enterprise.
No, the thing is, TNG is still there in that alternate universe.
I just like irking Star Trek fans by reminding them that in the new timeline, the only show that happened is Enterprise.
And see, I loved Enterprise.
Yeah, but we're in the minority on that.
Fuck it. Whatever, Just calm the fuck down, people. Jesus, calm the fuck down. You can still go back and enjoy watching your TNG episodes and all
They're
this
all
other...
fine. They're all still there.
Yeah, they're still on your fucking DVD shelf. Or they're still downloaded on your computer next to the fucking lesbian midget porn. They're still fucking there, people. Calm the fuck down. And I hope that with episode 7, people can just take it and either like it or hate it based on its own merits as a movie. And at least to some degree, in as much as we're capable as emotional beings, to check our baggage at the door and just take this as it comes in its own right. And I think if we can do that, most people will hopefully be happy. I'm going into this with just an expectation for, a good 2-hour escape and shit gets blown up real good, and hopefully Harrison Ford will give a fuck.
I think he'll give a fuck for Star Wars.
I think he will too, but then again, it is Harrison Ford, so you never know. He does not have to give fucks, sir. He does not.
I think we'll see more fucks given than were in Ender's Game, where he was like, "My name is Harrison Ford, and
I'm your A-list actor for the evening." That is
exactly.
all. So
where they probably had him. He probably drove up hungover and was like, "You have me on set for 40 minutes and then I'm going home." And then they filmed all of his scenes.
Beyond what we've already discussed regarding episode 7, and before we go on to the next topic, this one we haven't even planned out. We're just talking impromptu on this one. Mm-hmm. So before we move on to whatever the fuck we're talking about next, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I just want to add that if Kylo Ren ends up being Luke Skywalker, I've tried to think how I would react. And Luke Skywalker, when I was a little kid watching the Star Trek trilogy on VHS, even before they re-released the special editions in theaters, like when I was just watching it on VHS and being a huge Star Wars fan, Luke was always my favorite character. And thinking about this, I want to say that my reaction would mirror that of Cosmic, but I just don't know. And it's going to be one of those cases where if this does happen, if this is the case, it's going to be something I'm going to have to wait and see to see how to see how it impacts me, to see what my gut reaction is, because I can think and I can say, oh, and I can think and I could say, oh, that's logical or that's horseshit, but you know, this is going to be something where I'm only going to find out what I feel about it when I'm sitting in the theater and it happens. Well, and that's when I'm going to learn something about myself.
And that's a fair, I mean, I guess that's as fair of a stance as I can expect you to take on it, given your attachment to the franchise. I mean, that's reasonable. You know, at least see what they do and how they do it before you go running off calling the suicide hotline. You know, I mean, at least consider Operation Calm the Fuck Down. Before, you know, we go off fucking hurling our feces at people. More so than we do already. So what's next on the docket, sir? What are we doing?
Transformers, happenings from, New York Comic Con.
Oh yeah, lots of shit there.
So, Combiner Wars has been a thing for a while now.
An awesome thing.
An amazing, awesome thing, yes. And, Hasbro at New York Comic Con, released 2 bits of information. They said the Generations line to follow up War for Cyber, Combiner Wars would be Titan's Return, which is apparently that Titan Wars stuff we saw at BotCon. And they announced that this is going to be, part 2 in a 3-part trilogy that they're calling the Prime Wars. Combiner Wars was part 1. Titan's Return will be part 2. And part 3 has yet to be unveiled. And they're doing this really interesting thing with Generations. For the longest time, when the Generations line first got started, back in 2006, it was as the Classics line, and there was no media attached to it. Like, there was no TV show, there were no comic books, there was no movie, it was just, here are some toys that are updates of G1 guys. And then that continued under the Universe banner, and then finally under Generations. And what they finally have done is merged the Generations toy line with the IDW comic series. And IDW had their Combiner Wars miniseries to coincide with the launch of the Combiner Wars toy line. And they're announcing a Combiner Wars animated series on YouTube via Machinima. So it looks like Hasbro's going in this multimedia storytelling direction. They haven't written off Robots in Disguise 2015, but they basically co-signed it to the it's in the back. It's a thing that happens, but no one pays attention to it. As they should, because it's not a good show in my opinion.
Fair enough.
They seem to be focusing all their media attention on this kind of, this synthesis between IDW and Hasbro, where Hasbro creates the toys, IDW creates the fiction, and then the fiction is conveyed primarily through the comic books, but in addition to that, the comic, they then are able to spin aspects of that off onto other mediums, such as this Combiner Wars Machinima project. And Titan's Return is the follow-up to Combiner Wars, and, Titans, we got some clarification. I remember when, we were talking about Titan Wars, back when that was when they were calling it. We're like, so is this gonna be a line of like...
Metroplex?
of Metroplexes and Fort Maxes and Triptychons? Like, that's... I don't think you can do a whole line that big, and they're not. Titans, in this context, doesn't refer to the Hasbro size class. It refers to... They took all of the previous masters, Power Masters, Head Masters, Target Masters, and everyone's favorite, Breast Masters.
Woo!
from the, I believe the Breastmasters, showed up in Transformers Victory, the Japanese-only series. Unfortunately, being called Victory, it wasn't Transformer Breastmaster!
Unfortunately. It is sad that we never got Breastmasters here in the West. I, for one, am particularly saddened by this.
Breastmaster Sexaton Transformer!
Lol. But that's all I will say about that.
Anyway, but they've taken all of the master concepts, and they've decided, for the sake of marketing, they're all going to be called one thing, and that's going to be Titan Masters. So, if you're a tiny robot that turns into a gun, you're a Titan Master. You're a tiny robot that turns into a breastplate, Titan Master. Tiny robot that turns into a head, Titan Master. And so what Titans Return is basically going to be a line that explores this concept, in toy form. And it's going to be used as an opportunity to bring back some of the master figures, give some of those characters new figures with modern engineering, and do some new interesting stuff, a lot of stuff that a lot of us didn't see coming. So I'm going to start off on the smallest end of things. We're going to work our way up, okay? So, all of the traditional size classes in Titans Return...
Cockmasters!
All of the traditional size classes are back, so we're gonna have Deluxe, we're gonna have Voyager, we're gonna have Leader. And all of the, Headmasters are interchangeable on
with
all
Cockmasters.
So here are going to be some standalone Headmaster figures that they're selling.
Standalone Headmasters.
Standalone Headmasters. So tell me what you think of those, Jack. These are guys who don't have their own Deluxe, Voyager, or Leader-sized toy. They're just little tiny robot men who transform into heads and who have 2 alternate modes each.
Well, I mean... Finally, us G1 collectors can get ahead in the world. So many puns, so many innuendos. I think it's kind of silly that you would go out and buy a fucking head.
I get the feeling this is more for the kids. This is to emphasize the quote-unquote play pattern. Like, you could buy all the toys and then buy all of these individual heads, and you'd have, like, infinite swapping options. Like, I guess that's what they're going for.
I think it's actually probably more for the collectors, to be honest with you. Just to give us some kind of variety, like, different combinations, that kind of shit. 'Cause you do have a lot of people who have, like, original Transformers characters that they've created or even drawn and put up on DeviantArt, which in some cases are pornographic and in some cases, thankfully, not. Drag strip. What the fuck? Anyways, I digress. So, and this could give, some of these people chances to do that. And even you recently have kind of been fucking around with making your own Nova Prime in a way. So I mean, it gives people a little bit of creativity, and I kind of see this thing where, as a parent, if you're buying this for your child, you're going to have to question your life decisions when you're standing at the checkout at Walmart and you're saying, "I'm buying a head for my kid." That's what this thing is. It just turns into a fucking head.
Hey. The WWF sold those bath toys that were just the wrestlers' heads that you squirted water out of. You can squirt the Ultimate Warrior on your children in the bathtub!
Oh, Lord, back when Spoonie was actually funny.
Indeed.
Anyways. So, yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to move up to Legends size, and these are going to be interacting with a larger leader-size figure we'll get to in due time, but these seem like new takes on the Autobot cassettes, one of whom is Rewind, and I'm super psyched to see Rewind, because Rewind's awesome.
I'm glad you're didn't they just was it a Rewind or a Chrome Dome they just did?
The Transformers Collectors Club had exclusive Rewind and Chrome Dome figures. But, the Rewind was just a repaint of an old generation's, Frenzy and Rumble toy with a new head.
Right.
And Chrome Dome was a repaint of Transformers Prime Wheeljack with a new head. And so this is gonna be the first Rewind since G1 who has actually been designed to be Rewind from the get-go.
Well, that's cool. I mean, I'm glad you're getting that. And I think these toys look pretty cool in general.
Well, obviously these guys, I mean, they are small, they are simple, but they're not meant to be bought on their own.
Just
right?
like you.
Oh. Like, you don't buy these you don't buy Rewind or Stripes, to just have Rewind or Stripes, unless you happen to be big Rewind and or Stripes fans. You buy them to, play with, this.
Your Clockmasters.
Leader class blaster, which has been announced. So those Legends toys, Stripes and Rewind, when they're in what they're called data pad mode, they can then be used with this Leader class blaster figure, who transforms from a boombox to a robot to a tiny base.
Maxi pads, attack!
I don't know though. I'm digging it. It's nice that we're finally going to get a blaster that has that's actually a dedicated boombox and has dedicated playability with cassette-like instruments. The fall for Cybertron, Soundwave, and Blaster toys that had the ejectable discs seemed to be the closest thing we're going to get, but no, this one seems to top it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's one that if I could actually be arsed to get it, I'd keep them in robot mode because I think that's a pretty awesome looking robot mode, the way they did it.
Not boombox mode?
Only if it played real cassette tapes, sir.
So we kind of jumped around on the size class front there. We jumped straight to leader. So let's go back and now let's look at the deluxe. The deluxe assortment for the first wave of Titan's Return. And there are two updates of G1 Headmasters. We've got Deluxe Hardhead and Deluxe Skull Cruncher. If you think about it, two of the Autobot Headmasters were Hardhead and Chrome Dome, so make of that what you will.
I don't need to. I think that's already been done.
But what do you think? Who would have guessed we'd get a new Skull Cruncher figure? I mean, goddamn. Hardhead I get, because Hardhead has gotten expanded roles in the IDW comics, so you'd have a lot of fans of those comics being like, I'd buy a new Hardhead, but Skull Cruncher?
Fuck you, Skull Cruncher's awesome.
Well, I'm not saying Skull Cruncher isn't awesome, I'm just saying I'm shocked that they did him.
Well,
I mean, Skull Cruncher's awesome, plus it allows for the possibility of an Optimus Prime repaint from that one time Optimus Prime was rebuilt into an alligator. Because G1.
Hopefully we don't do that.
Hey, we need more G1 cartoon references in the franchise these days, just so we can eventually have Optimus Prime calling Blitzwing and Astrotrain boobies again.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
And have Blitzwing harassing a football coach because he thinks he's Earth's premier wartime strategist.
You are your species' best tactician. I'm a high school football coach. Construct a zone defense! What the fuck is a zone defense? I don't know. We're just gonna build something. Okay.
Meanwhile, Astro Train is trying to take over the world using robotic trains. Oh, that episode's fantastic.
It really is. It really is.
But no, I'm digging it. Hardhead, I think Hardhead in particular, and okay, granted, Hardhead, you can only do, like, the character design is the character design. You can't deviate too far from it. But remember, Jack, when you put forward your theory that Hasbro was using the third-party companies as a sort of unofficial, focus group, in a way?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I am going to pull up a third-party Hardhead, toy from way back when. This is from a few years back. Alright, here we go. View. Image. Okay. So here is third-party Hardhead from a few years ago. And that looks strikingly similar to, in my opinion, to the Hardhead that we're getting. The official one.
Oh my god, its name is Hardbone?
Yes. Because they can't call it Hardhead, right?
Oh my god, really?
Yeah, because they can't.
Hardbone?
They can't call it Hardhead, so they have to call it something that people recognize as Hardhead, but isn't.
You fuckers, stop making the jokes for me. Stop it.
And here is that third-party toys alternate mode, which is where I think the similarities really come into play.
Seriously though, Hardbone?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Gotta do what you gotta do to get around that Hasbro IP.
And yeah, I do see the definite similarities there, except Hasbro's looks a lot better. This one looks kind of cheap.
Yeah, indeed, but I think it kind of furthers your point where Hasbro's kind of using these companies and being like, oh, well, they made Hardhead and people bought it. Maybe we should work on one too.
And not name it Hardbone.
Alrighty, moving up to Voyagers, that size class in between Deluxe and Leader. The first one we gotta look at is an all-new Generation-style Galvatron. And Galvatron's interesting because his headmaster transforms into a little Megatron.
And see, this is, you know, I have my issues with the design of this toy. But that being said, this is the best Galvatron toy ever.
It is.
Because, if you think back on the history of Galvatron toys, it's not exactly a very illustrious career. I mean, the G1 Galvatron was like a mildly movable gray brick.
That had sound effects that would drive you insane.
Right. And that did drive my grandmother insane.
And then there was Energon Megatron, who was basically Galvatron, and he was pretty good, but still pretty, unposable. He had posing limitations, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And then you had the Universe Generations, style Galvatron, who was a deluxe-sized tank, and who sucked donkey balls.
Yeah.
So, this is easily the best one. What do you think of his head being a little tiny Megatron? I mean, I know what they're trying to do there. That's no.
Megatron's in his head. Whatever. I guess they felt like they had to do something, and that's what they went with, so, whatever.
On the design, though, this toy's design, I mean, it looks pretty awesome. I'd say my biggest complaints are that he looks his thighs look, like, noticeisably thin.
Yeah, they are disproportionate, and it kind of gives him an almost top-heavy look, even though his lower legs kind of balance it out a bit, but it still has this kind of a top-heavy look to me.
He's got very broad shoulders, very broad chest, and then like these tiny wafer thighs, and then like giant chins.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's definitely an issue. But again, it's probably the best Galvatron we're probably ever going to get. So if you're in the market for Galvatron,
here you go.
Although I am kind of curious because, okay, Titan's Return is being set up as a sequel to Combiner Wars. Well, in Combiner Wars, one of the remolds they did of Silverbolt was as of Cyclonus. And when you transformed him into torso mode, Cyclonus's robot head became a Galvatron head, and so he became Galvatronus.
Right.
But now Galvatron's appearing in the sequel line, so what's gonna happen there? Did Cyclonus just kind of let his admiration for Galvatron go a bit too far? And he just stuck a giant Galvatron head in his chest?
Your head is inside me.
He just whispers that to Galvatron.
Oh, Lord. Who knows?
I mean, that would be a worthy follow-up to that G1 episode where Cyclonus had Galvatron committed to the therapy planet.
Basket weaving class.
Basket weaving class and picture identification. It's like, what do you see here, Galvatron? Your doom!
Exactly. Drives the therapy planet insane.
Oh yeah, that's right. Like, his insanity has infected the planet. Anyway.
It's kind of like Tony Stark going to rehab.
Everyone just ends up an alcoholic.
Yeah. Fucking makes the doctors end up drinking.
Well, I've saved what I feel is the best for last. A lot of people don't agree with me, but they're wrong, and heathens, and Philistines. For the first time, we have an official Generation 1 Sentinel Prime toy. And he is going to be a Voyager in Titan's Return. Here's the link, sir.
Yeah, this one I remember fairly well, actually.
They turned Sentinel Prime into a triple changer. And, he, seems from an armored train into what looks
He's
like...
Astro Train!
Yeah!
He's Astro Trainimus Prime.
Yeah. I mean, obviously people are saying this is going to get repainted into Astro Train in the future. Wouldn't surprise me if it was.
I mean, it's almost a no-brainer.
But, I'm gonna get it as Sentinel Prime, because I'm a big Sentinel Prime fan. And he is finally getting a toy. Generation 1 Sentinel Prime, never had a toy before, does now.
And I do agree with the one comment on here. I want to see a Broadside remake.
That could work.
I would love to see. We do need some Broadside love. We
that
really
could
do.
work. But what do you think? What are your thoughts on Sentinel Prime?
I think it looks good.
I mean, I'm a big fan of, I'm a big fan of Sentinel Prime, I'm a big fan of Nova Prime, and I've been advocating that they need to do toys of pre-war primes more often, and this is this is our first real go at it. So, I'm excited about it. And in addition to that, they've announced that Sentinel Prime will be returning from the dead to play a role in the Titans Return IDW comic series.
Because obviously Optimus has lost his goddamn mind, leaving Bumblebee in charge.
Exactly, and so Sentinel Prime has to be brought back from the dead. So give me back that fucking Matrix!
Pretty much.
Sentinel, you're a triple changer? Well, after I found out how badly you screwed things up, I decided I needed another mode to pick up the slack.
Lol.
Bumblebee? as an aside, I want to talk, I want to revisit a previous conversation we had. I want to talk a bit about how bullshit it was at the end of Predacons Rising and Transformers Prime that Optimus just destroyed the Matrix like that and gave everyone participation awards.
Yeah, the whole thing, and you and I had this discussion the other night, the whole thing, is very out of character for Optimus.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would you just destroy the fucking Matrix, toss it down a fucking well, and then, okay, Bumblebee, you're in charge. Like, okay, if they wanted Bumblebee to become the next leader, then either have Prime give him the fucking Matrix and we get Bumblemiss Prime or what the fuck ever.
Bumblemiss Prime.
Or, you know, fucking have Prime die, or like the Matrix maybe be destroyed, you know, by Predaking or whatever. And then have the remaining Autobots who are left, you know, just basically vote Bumblebee in, is a show that democracy is a joke.
Bumblebee. Yeah. I mean, God. It just seems so, because, right. And I understand I'm mixing continuities here, but things are so fluid in Transformers and continuities borrow from each other so much, I don't feel this is that great of a sin. In the IDW comics, they explain that Orion Pax, Optimus before he became Prime, was, if not an atheist, at least agnostic.
Mm-hmm.
And he mentions how he's not sure if he believes in Primus and the Guiding Hand, or the Knights of Cybertron, or even if the Matrix carried by Nominus Prime at the time is, you know, really has divine powers. And then, fast forward to the point in the comics when he finally receives the Matrix and becomes Optimus Prime, he has what can only be described as sort of a religious experience. And he says that he felt, basically, the essence of Primus within the Matrix, as it bonded with him. And so you basically have where the Matrix is essentially, it is an embodiment of Cybertron. It is an embodiment of Primus. It's the embodiment of Cybertronian civilization and just Cybertronian spirituality. And Optimus kind of just destroyed it on a whim.
Well, I mean, it's the embodiment of Primus himself, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's even like beyond like our Holy Grail or anything like that. I mean, it's like concentrated God. I mean, it's Primus being their creator, the Matrix being like his embodiment, his soul, his essence. And Prime's just like, fuck it, chuck it down a well.
You're in charge, Bumblebee!
Right?
Which, again, explains why Optimus got stuck with Micronus Prime in, like, the afterlife. Because all the other Primes were probably too pissed off. He sure as hell wasn't getting Lincoln.
Right?
So he got the Millard Fillmore of Primes.
And yeah, this art of Bumblebee Prime, that actually does look pretty cool.
I mean, you can only do so much of the concept of Bumblebee Prime.
Mm-hmm. It's better than a lot of them I've seen.
Yeah. God, fucking Bumblebee Prime. Honestly, I'm kind of wouldn't mind someone, if it's, whether it's the comics or the show, someone needs to take another crack at Rodimus Prime, in my opinion.
See, like, okay, and that's my other thing with the way Predacons Rising ended. You know, you had this whole, like, story arc with Smokescreen that just died.
Yeah, how he was destined for great things, and then Optimus almost dies and passes the Matrix on to him.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, you know, that's completely forgotten about.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I honestly would have just, I mean, I don't know, 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 I don't know I would have, instead of just having Smokescreen, I would have just flat out made it Hot Rod. And I would have made, Hot Rod Rodimus Prime by the end of Predacons Rising.
Yeah.
And then, you can say, oh, well, they wanted a show focused on Bumblebee. Well, okay, you can have a show focused on Bumblebee that doesn't include Rodimus Prime.
Right.
Or have him show up as, like, once a season or something, but like...
And they didn't even do that right, because then Optimus comes back at the end of season 1 of R.I. Derp.
Mm-hmm. He comes back at the end of season, which I love, by the way. Again, and we touched on this before, but I just want to touch on it again, because god damn it, this show's bad. The entire premise is, oh, it's Bumblebee, he has to learn to be a leader, he can't rely on Optimus anymore.
And then they prove that that Bumblebee's incapable of being a leader because Optimus has to come back and take over. From the dead.
From the first episode. The first main bad guy they fight, Underbite. Optimus Prime has to come back from the ether and basically bitch slap Underbite in one punch and then go to Bumblebee. Was that mean man bothering you?
Yeah. Where?
And then you had, and then, for the rest of the season, it goes on at the end, it proves that Optimus has to come back from the dead to, save Earth, because Bumblebee couldn't do it by his own. And then, the end of season 1, Optimus is like, I am no longer needed here. And then Bumblebee's like, Optimus, we do need you, stay with us. And Optimus goes, no, not kidding anyone here, he goes, I will stay, Bumblebee, but only if you are my equal and not my subordinate. And all I could think of was, Prime reviews. He never leaves.
Okay, I mean, to all the people who on the TFW forums are like, oh my god, thankfully, a show where Optimus isn't the leader. Well, evidently you fuckers are in the minority because they had to bring Optimus in to even have a chance of probably having a season 2 that's garbage. And now we're stuck with Optimus and Bumblebee being equals in this unholy abomination of the fucking robotic odd couple.
I remember you and I were talking after, like, the first episode, like, it's got promise, there are some interesting things they can do, and then they proceed to drop the ball on almost all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, we thought Strong Arm and Sideswipe would have, like, their relationship, like, or both of them as characters would develop, and they develop for episodes, and then they revert back to being idiots.
Yeah. Like, every good possible plot thread, every opening that they gave themselves, in a very well-written, well-told pilot series, pilot episodes, they completely pissed away. Like, going into it, I was fully prepared after those first few episodes of the pilot to be like, okay, I was wrong about this. This is actually worth a chance. Mm-hmm. And then they piss all over all of it.
They do. They piss all over all of it, and like the big thing I was looking forward to, Optimus getting, like spirit training from the past primes turned out to be a letdown because he only got stuck with Micronus Prime, who turned out to be a jerk with short man syndrome.
Lol.
Oh, god damn it. But kind of keeping the Transformers, discussion going, I want to talk a bit about some Kickstarter Transformers-esque drama. And this is the first time I've spoken to you about it, Jack, so I'm hoping to get a lot of, raw takes on something that I've been following for a while.
Okay, so you want me to rage. Gotcha. I'll lay it on me.
Not rage necessarily. I want your unfiltered perspective.
See, guys, what you don't know is that Mike a lot of times encourages me to go up on my fucking tirades because he says it makes for good listening.
It does.
Anyways, lay it on me.
It does. Although that's not what I'm doing here. It's not what I'm doing here necessarily.
Or is it? Go on. What the fuck is it?
Alright, so a bit of backstory. There's a fellow by the name of Rick Alvarez, who worked for Hasbro, on the Transformers brand. Apparently he was the number 2 guy on the creative end at Hasbro underneath Aaron Archer as far as Transformers went. Mm-hmm. He was involved in the aligned continuity where they came out with the game War for Cybertron. They came out with the book Exodus. They came out with the Prime TV show, and they said that it was all part of one new, consolidated, massive continuity, right?
Which was a very cool concept.
It was.
It didn't work out the best, but it was a cool concept.
It was. Well, apparently, Rick took the brunt of it not working out, to the point where, under his stewardship, the Transformers Prime TV show near the end was costing $1 million per episode.
Well, Michael Ironside ain't cheap.
Well,
I mean, who you think he is? Fucking Liam Neeson?
I mean, that's sad considering that an episode of Doctor Who costs about $1 million to make, except Doctor Who goes for around 45 minutes an episode and Transformers Prime goes for 22 minutes an episode. So that's some price disparity. In fact, a lot of people are saying this Prime Wars thing of Generations with Combiner Wars, Titans Returns, that's all the backup plan after the aligned continuity helmed by Mr. Alvarez fell flat on its face. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so Mr. Alvarez was let go, and around 2 years ago, he formed a company called Play With This Too.
Okay, I'm done going.
Alright. He started a company called Play With This 2.
Sorry.
And he basically said that he wanted to hire a bunch of ex-Hasbro talent, including Aaron Archer, who parted ways with Hasbro over creative differences.
Right.
So he got Aaron Archer on board, got a fellow by the name of Tret Shroop who makes a toy series called B-Mog toys. They're tiny 5mm peg port weapons that transform into robotic animals, and a lot of people like to buy them as accessories for official Transformers figures.
5mm peg port.
They got Trent Shroop, got Aaron Archer, got Simon Fullman, who wrote the Transformers comic series before the current IDW team took over. Had a bunch of people on board, and they started making 6-inch action figures based on Transformer Pretender designs.
Pretender designs? Oh.
Yeah, you know Pretender.
Yeah. I remember that garbage.
Well, they took the designs of the humanoid shells that you put the robots inside of.
Right.
And they used those designs as the basis for articulated 6-inch action figures.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of problems.
One, it's stupid.
One, Pretender, nobody liked Pretenders. Anyone who tells you they like Pretenders now is lying, because there's a reason that Pretenders is associated with the dark days of G1.
Like, that was the time when Hasbro was just literally trying to get any gasp of life they could into the franchise, and we were throwing shit at the wall and hoped it fucking stuck.
Exactly. So, which is why, a lot of people are like, oh, I love Pretenders. It's like, well, look, I have no doubt that there are people out there who have fond and nostalgic memories of their Pretender Transformer toys, but at the end of the day, sales indicate those people were not great in number. Sales figures indicate. So, that's problem number one. Problem number two is that, Rick Alvarez did an interview on another Transformers-centric podcast where he basically badmouthed Hasbro, saying, under Hasbro, the artists weren't allowed to design what they wanted. They were being dictated to by focus groups and by corporate executives. And, when I heard that interview, I went to that thread where that podcast was posted and was discussed.
Right.
Pardon?
Yeah, go on.
And I noticed that the Play With This 2 company had an account that was posting that thread, and I assumed it was either going to be Rick Alvarez or someone very close to him, and I said, and I basically said, look, Mr. Alvarez, or whoever this is, you're reminding me a lot of early 90s Image comics, where a bunch of artists left Marvel and basically said, we could do our own thing. And it failed because it turned out that artists don't have the best business sense or storytelling abilities. And so I was like, you seem to be bad-mouthing a lot of these corporate executives, a lot of these marketing executives, but don't you think that they do have a role in successfully getting a line out to marketplace? Like, what's your plan? Like, what's your plan? If this is just a company full of artists doing what artists want to do, who's running the business side of things? And the account, and again, I don't know if this was Rick Alvarez or someone else at the company, responded, don't worry, we hired an accountant.
From Bob's Bait Tackle and Accounting Emporium.
Exactly. And so
That's great.
Their first attempt, they launched a Kickstarter. And another thing that bugged me about all this. They had, Rick Alvarez went on this long spiel about how at Hasbro they were restrained and they couldn't make the toys that they wanted to make. And now that they were all under this new company, they could do whatever it is that they wanted. And what do? They make figures that violate Hasbro IP and rip off characters like Starscream and Grimlock.
And okay, let's just again go back to the main problem that shows these guys have the business acumen of a fucking tack. Pretenders? Yeah. That's your foot forward. That's your best foot forward. That's your first impression.
Mm-hmm.
That's your pitch to the community.
Well,
fucking Pretenders?
Well, what really bugged me was that, when Aaron Archer, who was the head of the head of the creative division of Transformers at Hasbro for a long time, he obviously was very limited when he worked at Hasbro in what he could relay to the fan base, right? Like, part of a corporate structure, you can't just go telling people everything, or whatever. When he left Hasbro, someone asked him what he thought of third-party Transformers, those unofficial companies making Transformers toys based off Transformers characters.
Oh, this should be good.
Well, Aaron Archer basically said, look, I don't care how well it's made. It's violating Hasbro's intellectual property. It's people getting rich off of the brand others worked hard to establish.
And what do they do?
Well, well, here's the thing. That was before Aaron Archer signed on to Play With This 2. He said that. Some fans heckled him for it at TFCon. You can actually find the video online somewhere, kind of trying to get him into this verbal maze, trying to get him to say what they wanted to say because they couldn't deal with the fact that he was saying mean things about third-party Transformers. And then after all that, after he comes out and says, like, he's against these third-party Transformers, saying this after he's already left Hasbro, by the way, Rick Alvarez then hires him for Play With This 2, and when people ask him about it, a month later, he goes, my opinion has evolved. It's like, yeah, your opinion evolved when a third-party company making IP-infringing products started signing your paychecks, Aaron, and it's like, look, Hasbro's a big multi-million, probably even billion-dollar company. I realize as a consumer, they have no loyalty to me. And I'm not one to wave the IP flag. I'm not going to tell anyone who buys third-party Transformers that they're wrong. Hell, I have a third-party Reflector toy on my shelf because I like Reflector and I want to get as many Reflectors as I can. Thank you very much. And Hasbro's probably not going to make another one. So I bought a Perfect Effects updated Reflector, and I have him standing next to G1 Reflector that I bought in Pikeville, actually.
Yes, that actually was funny. Like, when Mike came down to visit, we go to the local nerd store. It's called Page 3. If you're ever in Eastern Kentucky, I'd say go in and check them out. They got some good shit in there.
Yeah, they're good people.
But, so we go in there and, we're browsing around and, go over to Mike and he's at the Transformers case. I'm like, so that's anything you want? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, what you getting? I'm getting Reflector. And they go, what?
Reflector's awesome, man.
And evidently $80 is a good price for a good condition G1 Reflector because he paid it fucking happily.
Yeah.
But no, I'm just like, okay.
I saw complete G1 Reflector at TFCon for like $150, like a couple years back. So yeah, $80.
And then we went and blew twice out at the fucking liquor store.
with my Ontario driver's license that threw the guy through a loop.
Yeah, I'm like, no, he's Canadian. It's okay. He's Canadian.
He's like, I'm gonna have to see some ID, and I'm like, okay, here you go. And he's like,
you're not one of them Muslims, are you?
No, no, I'm just Canadian.
Yeah.
Poser. But anyway, so like, look, I'm not gonna tell anyone who has a third-party toy that, oh, they're wrong, IP. But when you're a company that's founded on the idea that artists should be able to make what they want and you rip off IP, and when you are a former employee of Hasbro who's spoken out against IP infringement and then signed on to a company that infringes IP, I take issue on principle, right? It's a matter, at that point it just becomes, no, now you're just being, hypocritical assholes. Now, the reason why I lay all this groundwork is because they launched Kickstarter campaigns. And that's another big thing because, when they did this interview that I responded to on the TFW forums, they had announced they were going to do a Kickstarter, and so every member of the Transformers fan base is now a potential financial backer. Once that happens, everyone who sees that news item, everyone who listens to that interview is a potential financial backer for your Kickstarter. And I had a very legitimate question about their lack of business sense, and all they could give me was, we hired an accountant. And apparently I was not alone, because their first Kickstarter, which ran from February to March of 2015, came up short. They attempted another Kickstarter, which ran from September to October 2015. This one was a slaughter. The first Kickstarter had a goal of $80,000. They came in at around $70,000 plus. So, short, but it seemed as if there was significant interest there. The second Kickstarter was for $90,000. And they got $30,000. And Kickstarter isn't GoFundMe or Indiegogo. You can't keep the money if you don't fund.
Right.
So they've got so they had a clear, I just feel in a sense that, while I'm not one to say I told you so, it seems as if my concerns about Play With This 2's ability to be a successful company from the financial end of things were well-founded, and that they weren't concerns that were unique or isolated to me, that these were concerns that a lot of people, a lot of potential financial backers had. And the reason why I want to bring this up goes back to our friend Rick Alvarez, because the way that the second Kickstarter was structured, it was going to end around the time of, it was going to end during the last day of TFCon USA. TFCon being the unofficial convention that runs shows in Toronto in the summer. They decided that in October now they're going to have an American show, and this year's American show, Rick Alvarez was there with the Play With This 2 team. And I have the feeling that they were looking at it thinking it would be that they could celebrate being funded there. Of course it didn't happen. So,
but we put out pretenders and everything.
What did they do? They, at TFCon USA this year, once it became clear it wasn't going to fund, like the last 24 hours and they've only got $30,000 and change, it's clear this isn't funding. They've got, they had the displays of their Pretender Starscream and Pretender Grimlock figures with new accessories, hands giving the finger.
That's maturity at its finest.
It really is. It really is. It really is. And then to cap off the shit Sunday with just that little corn nugget cherry, Rick Alvarez is presenting a panel. Remember how I mentioned that Rick Alvarez was one of the driving forces behind the aligned continuity?
Right.
Well, he did a panel at TFCon USA where called the riot, basically why the aligned continuity failed.
Right.
And it basically turned into Rick Alvarez blames everyone who worked at Hasbro except himself. This is a man, one of his claims. You know how they had those books, Exodus and Exiles?
Yeah.
Tied into War for Cybertron.
Yeah, they were actually pretty good reads.
They're very good. He claimed that the original author, whose name appears on the books, did a shit job, and he rewrote both books from scratch the day before the deadline.
Right. Because that can be done.
That's how that works. He also went on and claimed that, Beast Hunters wasn't the original plan, that he originally wanted to have season 3 of Prime be about space pirates, and that, Hasbro was being mean and unreasonable by coming up with Beast Hunters. I don't know. Like, the whole thing just seemed like Rick Alvarez burning whatever bridges of his former employer were left. And given everything that happened with Play With This 2 and that whole clusterfuck, I just want to address a lot of that drama that's still going on. People taking sides, people, pointing fingers, middle or otherwise. Look, I know a lot of people have fond memories of Pretenders. I do. Joking aside, I realize there are people who are fans of Pretenders. But let's put that aside. And let's talk about Play With This 2. Play With This 2 is a shit pile of a company run by a man with the emotional maturity of a 12-year-old.
Or me.
Or Jack.
Yeah.
And, who lured Hasbro, who lured someone with the talents of Aaron Archer away, basically made Aaron Archer, who is still a tremendous talent in the world of toy design and engineering, made him look like an unprincipled schmuck. And now and their last Kickstarter just completely bombed, and it failed. And why did it fail? Why did it fail twice? Because Rick Alvarez and all the other designers who bought his horseshit, they might have had all the talent in the world, but they didn't have a damn bit of business sense. And they should get a refund on whoever that accountant was, because he clearly steered them in the wrong direction. But bigger point, this company, there's no reason to support this company. They're dead. D-E-A-D, dead. Aaron Archer bailed after the first Kickstarter. He wasn't even around for the second one. I wouldn't be surprised if Trent Troop went his own way, because he doesn't need them. He's got BMOG. He's basically got the BMOG market cornered. He is the BMOG market. He doesn't need these clowns. So can we finally let it die? The more I've seen of Rick Alvarez, the more clear it becomes to me why he was let go from Hasbro in the first place. And it's completely on him that with his immature showing at TFCon USA, he's burnt every bridge at Hasbro and is basically guaranteed he will never be employed in the toy industry again. Because who's gonna hire someone who basically goes, if I don't get my way, I'm gonna go to a convention and air all of my dirty laundry publicly.
And then I'm gonna make toys that are flipping you off.
And I'm gonna flip you off with my toys that are totally original characters and not Grimlock and Starscream.
The thing is, okay, here's my problem with this. I've kind of alluded to it just by my comments through this, but the fact that that is the foot that you are leading in with, fucking pretenders of all the goddamned things. Like, why? What on earth would fucking possess you to lead in with the worst? I would venture to guess. I would venture to say that this is probably the worst idea Hasbro's ever had.
No, I'd still say that was Action Masters when they made non-transforming Transformers.
Oh, okay. The second worst idea that Hasbro ever had, and this is going to be your introductory, your flagship product.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why not actually come up with original bot designs? Why not actually hire a writer, to come up with a good backstory and a universe to put these guys in?
Exactly. You look at or who was on their payroll as of, about a month ago, and you go, okay, there's some talent here. I mean, the talent for original character design was definitely there. But they didn't do that, and that's even more infuriating when you realize that they made this big show about we don't want to be limited by Hasbro executives. And then you just make Hasbro, you just make figures who are blatant ripoffs of Hasbro IP. It seems like above everything else, it's also just a big waste of potential. These guys could probably design really cool original character designs if they would have tried.
Yeah, and with the talent that they had, and I think most Transformers fans, even though he was responsible for Beast Wars, do respect Aaron Archer. It seems like just wasted potential.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you, even taking your argument of, okay, well, creative ability does not equal business talent, even taking that and throwing it aside, from a creative standpoint, the best you have, creatively, is ripping off something that was a horrible idea to begin with. That's not even ripping off correctly.
Yeah, no, it's not.
So why the fuck should people back you if this is your howdy do to the world? Hey, remember these pieces of shit? We're remaking them.
Mm-hmm.
The fuck?
And not only that, they didn't even perform their primary function. They were just 6-inch action figures. They couldn't even function as effective pretender shells.
Fuck it.
So that's
stupid.
I just wanted to get that out, because that's been something stirring along. And you've had one or two dedicated Play With Us 2 fanboys who've been going to every site imaginable that you could think would have any remote interest in this line, and they've been spamming the hell. Oh, here are all the updates. Isn't this great? Let's talk about how awesome Play With Us 2 is. And they have annoyed pretty much every message board, from TFW to the Allspark to the Fwoosh.com. These cancerous idiots have only alienated even more people from this shit pile of a company. And as we sit here near the end of October and the beginning of November, I want to ask you guys, I want to ask guys like Scaleface, I want to ask these idiots, what exactly are you a fan of? Because as far as I can tell, Play With Us 2 is dead and buried. And they're dead and buried because they had no business sense, and they never ever took advantage of the creative talent they had on hand. The company only exists as a figment of Rick Alvarez's imagination, and that's probably where it should die. Just saying. Told you so.
Lol. Yeah, I pretty much agree.
Anyway, I think that'll do it for episode 62 of Basically a Geek Show. Follow us on Twitter at @GeekShow. Send us an email at basicallyageekshow@gmail.com. We're also on Spreaker and iTunes and YouTube, and of course at basicallyasportshow.com. Any last words, Jack?
YOLO.
YOLO indeed. This is Mike for Jack signing off.
Good night, everybody.